Welcome back to Driveholiks. My name is AJ. I'm a motorsport engineer. In this first full car analysis, we're talking the BMW E46 M3. Some people say the BMW E46 is the best M car ever made. Unfortunately, some consider it as a ticking time bomb. So the question is it worth owning one in 2025? We'll figure out at the end of this video. Stay tuned. For those who don't know about this car, the E46 M3 launched in 2000. It replaced the E36 M3 and sat just before the V8 powered E92. Under the bonnet, it packed a 3.2-litre straight-six engine, codenamed the S54B32, with 338 horsepower in the Europe, 333 in the US, and 360 in the mighty CSL. It's built around a steel monocoque chassis, sprung on McPherson struts at the front and a multi-link setup at the back, perfectly balanced for a 50-50 weight distribution. Power from the S54 goes to the rear 255s through either a 6-speed manual or BMW's controversial SMG gearbox via a proper limited slip differential, which means if you know what you're doing, it'll do this. But the one thing that I learned as an engineer is that engineering at the edge always comes with a price. So let's start with the big ones. First one is rod bearings. Rod bearings are the thin metal shells that let the piston spin on the crank. But BMW made it tight for performance, and probably too tight that over time, the clearance vanishes, the oil film fails, and the crank starts eating itself. The repair bill for this is approximately 1,000 to 1,300 quid. Now let's move on to the next one. Valves. This is the mechanism that opens and shuts your valves to let air in and out to keep your engine breathing. When it works, the S54 feels alive, but it breaks. And when it breaks, it sounds like a bag of bolts at idle and you're 1,500 per. So it is a good idea to ask for a repair bill or do a complete Vanner's overhaul at the time of buying the car, which includes replacing the exhaust camshaft hubcaps, oil pump discs, the chain guides, oil seals and O-rings, all the tiny hub bolts, and the actual coil pack. Moving on to the rear subframe mounts. As Matt Armstrong said, it's notorious for breaking. The rear subframe mounts crack over time. You'll find stress fractures where the suspension meets the shell. If you don't reinforce it, the rear end can tear away. Welding this costs around 1,500 to 2,000 quid. Ignore it. Trust me, you'll be calling a flatbed. Now the last of the big ones and the most controversial bet, the SMG gearbox. The SMG gearbox was sold as Formula 1 tech for the road, but it is actually a manual transmission run by electronics and hydraulics, which means it is failure guaranteed. It is common for them to get stuck or suddenly jump out of gear. You will often see warning lights or that little cog light come up. It could be anything from a hydraulic pressure issue, leaking banjo bolts or dodgy seal, or maybe even a failed relay or an actuator. Basically, if it shifts funny, it is not asking for sympathy, it is asking for a specialist. So what is the best fix? You know it, it's a manual swap. Most owners just convert the SMG to manual. The conversion costs around 2,000 to 3,000 pounds as it's labor intensive. You need to take out the gearbox, put a new bell housing, drill the chassis, put a new gear lever, clutch. Hey, those who have done it says it's worth every penny. So if you're planning to buy one, these are the biggies you have to check. And here's the thing, the car's entire market value depends on these four things and how these have been handled by the previous owners. We'll take a look at what that means in the market today a bit later in the video. Right, time to get into some ownership math. Because even if you're lucky enough to find one that is mint, running one isn't cheap.
Fuel economy sits anywhere between 16 and 27 miles per gallon, depending on how heavy your right foot is. Insurance isn't too bad, surprisingly. Around 300 pounds a year for most owners. Not terrifying, but again that depends on your age, postcode, and how clean your record is. Tires are where it starts to bite. A proper set can cost anywhere between 1,200 to 2 grand. Though, if you're smart with choices, that number can definitely come down. Routine servicing is actually the least painful bit, about 200 pounds for a basic oil and filter. Still, this isn't a car you budget to the penny. It's one of those cars where you keep a little extra aside, just for peace of mind. Because with an M3, surprises aren't it, they're when.
Okay, so after all that fluff, you'll be curious to know how much you can get one for in 2025, right? Well, 10 years ago, you could pick up an M3 for 10 or 12 grand. That was the sweet spot. If you got it then, you won. Today, a clean manual E46 M3 with full service history and proof of those 4 big jobs sits comfortably around 28,000 to 35,000 quid. The rare ones like the CSL or a collector grade example are touching 50,000 and beyond. So what does that mean if you're buying one in 2025? It is simple. The value is in the paperwork, condition, mileage, documentation. These are the things that separates a dream car from a disaster. If the ad doesn't talk about those 4 fixes and there is no proof, walk away or maybe consider it as a project. To be fair, there are many enthusiasts out there for whom the risk is the attraction. You can even do an OEM plus restoration, but that's not cheap ownership. That's commitment. Treat it like an engineering project, not an investment. That's the only way it makes sense. From an engineering perspective, BMW built the E46 M3 for precision, not endurance. That is the reason why it feels alive even now, and it also self-destructs if you don't respect it. So coming back to the question that matters, is it worth buying one in 2025? I would say yes, because it's still a great car. I've already mentioned the things that you need to be careful about while buying the car. Either you should have the budget to do the complete restoration, or you should look for a good one that is mint, which will sell around 28,000 to 35,000 quid. Or if you don't have the money and you are willing to consider it as a long-term project, look for something that is around 12,000 to 15,000 quid and keep the budget to do a complete restoration over time. E46 M3 for me, and I know for sure for a lot of you guys out there, is not just a medium of transport. It is a machine that asks whether you're serious about cars. If you are, it'll reward you every time you turn the key, and if you're not, it'll bankrupt you trying. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you liked the video, and if you did, make sure you click the like button and subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss the next one. Until next time, peace out.